Business these days are being done at the speed of thought, as you know, and technology plays a very significant part in it. Inside technology, end-user technologies is a great enabler for business to grow the way they want to, because these days, if you see, users are the requirement is quite variable. There are users who work from office locations, who come into the office to perform their daily activities. However, there are a large bunch of users who often works from remote locations. They are into sales team, or they are enablers of the business who need to roam around. Also, there are lots of threats looming upon your infrastructure. There is a requirement for flexibility, which brings in cloud piece, and as we know, it's cloud is no longer just a talk. It's very much happening. Therefore, the job of IT administrator is it's quite challenging these days, to say the least, if it's not becoming difficult. That's because there's a lot of variations to the requirements, and IT administrator is expected to cater to the service to the same level of satisfaction to all these requirements. Therefore, the tool that Microsoft provides for IT administrators to cater to all these requirements is Microsoft System Center. Alright, now let's spend some time in this video in trying to understand what System Center is, and how it works, how it functions, and then we will go into later videos where we'll talk about installation and configuration of Configuration Manager. Right, so let's just dive into this. So System Center released in 2016 as a suite of product. Right, it's not just one product, but it has a suite of product. Together they are called a System Center. It includes products used for Configuration Manager. Now, Configuration Manager is one of the most popular product, if I should say. This is highly recommended and utilized for deploying applications, deploying operating systems, managing updates and whatnot. However, there are other tools available from this System Center suite, which is equally important and efficient. There is Operations Manager. Operations Manager's prime job is to keep monitoring the infrastructure, and if there is any problem with any of the server's health, this tool reports back, and it sends out an alert. So quite a handful of tasks are achieved by Operations Managers. And then we have Orchestrator. Well, what Orchestrator does is it helps to automate a lot of service requirements, and how it does is through runbooks. Runbooks is bunch of scripts which you can write in PowerShell, and then you can instruct the orchestrator to execute those scripts and sort of automate a lot of your activities. All these products, of course, seamlessly integrate with Windows Azure Pack. Service Manager it's like a service management tool, for ticketing and raising incidents, stuffs like that. Another very, very helpful product these days is Virtual Machine Manager. Now, what Virtual Machine Manager does is, if you understand hypervisor, Hyper-V is a hypervisor which is used to create virtualized tenants. However, in order to manage those virtualized tenants, we need something called as Virtual Machine Manager. Not just client. The Virtual Machine Manager is also used to manage virtual networks or virtual storage. Right. So really, it's a quite a handy tool, and very much a step closer to software-defined data center. Likewise, we have Foundation server, service provider Foundation. Now, this is a tool using which a service provider can start selling infrastructure as a service to their client. So you host an infrastructure, you create tenants, and then you want to help your customer achieve their goals through providing service through IaaS model, infrastructure as a service. And how you do it is through service provider foundation. So like I said, together they form a suite of product. If you want to study more about them, you can go to this reference. This again is a definition of what's included in Microsoft System Center. Of course, our focus right now is Configuration Manager. That's what we are trying to learn through this video. And Configuration Manager, as you might know, is helpful for deploying software, protect data, monitor health, and does a bunch of other stuffs as well. Now, many people are still not very clear when they talk about System Center and System Center configuration. So the two products, or the two terms, are quite frequently mixed with each other. Therefore, it's important to understand that while Microsoft System Center is a suite of product which contains all of these products: Configuration Manager, Virtual Machine Manager, Orchestrator, Operations Manager, Data Protection Manager, Service Manager. Whereas System Center Configuration Manager, it's one important tool which handles activities like deploying applications to end users, managing their updates, and it also integrates with Microsoft Intune, and we will see and talk about all those things as we go into our implementation. So what Config Manager does is, as we have discussed, firstly, the current branch of Config Manager, it has a lot of features which helps you migrate or which helps you maintain a Windows 10 environment. So as we understand from Microsoft, Windows 10 is the last version of client operating system that they have released. From here on, there is always a feature update or a version upgrade, but there is no Windows 11 to be foreseen in near future. So System Center Config Manager, as we will see in the upcoming videos, has lots of features which really helps you to maintain the Windows 10 requirements. Apart from that, it does the regular stuffs of application management. There are a lot of new features and capabilities which are included, like universal application support in application management feature pack. There is software update management, there is device management, VDI management. So really, SCCM does not differentiate between a virtual client, a virtual VDI machine running in your infrastructure, and a physical machine. If it has SCCM client, you can be sure that you can achieve all these requirements or all these activities on the client. So System Center Configuration Manager has been there for a long time, I should say. Now we have been using it from believe it or not, 1994. SMS 1.0 was the first version of System Management Server, which was released, followed by SMS 2.0, and then came SMS 2003 in year 2003, I suppose. It was released with Windows Server 2003, and quite a useful product back then. However, that was nothing compared to the product that we are going to evaluate now. So what's really changed in Configuration Manager? Let's see. There is in-console updates in Configuration Manager. So just like Windows 10, there is no Config Manager 2016. You must note that it's just SCCM with the current branch version appended. So it's like 1606, 1610, 1702, 1710, and likewise. So if you are already on a version of Config Manager, there is an in-console update or update link which can be used to update to the next version as long as the upgrade path is supported. Now, Microsoft Intune connector is replaced by new site system role, the service connection point, and this is very important because going forward, as you know, mobile devices are going to be a key for all end user productivity. It's being expected that majority of end user compute power is going to shift to mobile computing, and that's why this becomes very important. The new Config Manager provides user data collection, which means you can now collect the data usage of your let's say virtual tenants which are running in your Azure, and then you can have it in your on-premise storage. There are certain deprecated features as well, like the network access protection, but then this is something which is deprecated in Windows Server 2012, I suppose, itself. So yeah, it's no longer supported in SCCM as well. Configuration Manager introduces a new capability for testing new version of the Config Manager client. So earlier, when there was a new client which was released, it had to be pushed to all the clients, but now you can actually have a subset of client for testing out the Configuration Manager new client version, and if you are then happy, you can release it to the rest of the world. There is a lot of good things in the task sequence wizard. It creates the steps to upgrade the computer from Windows 7. So in place upgrade is now seamless in true sense. Windows P peer cache, a very useful feature introduced. Now what it does is, if you have a distribution point and if you have clients on your network, sorry about my drawing, if you have clients in the network which are connected remotely, and let's say if all these clients had to be built on LAN, there was a lot of traffic which used to flow, which often choked the network, and you would often complain why the deployment is happening very slowly. What Windows P peer cache technology brings in is, if this is computer 1, this is computer 2, and this is computer 3, if all of them are getting migrated, or all of them are going through the OSD process, instead of them fetching their files right from the distribution point, now they can share files among themselves. So if there are common bunch of files which are utilized by all these machines in a subnet, then instead of reaching out to the distribution point all the way through the LAN and the WAN, it's now possible to fetch the file from the computers which is plugged in the next network slot. Makes sense, right? So it makes life easy really for the network administrators as well. There is a support for universal platform. Now if you have already seen this, Microsoft introduced something called as universal app format, or universal Windows platform apps, starting with suppose Windows 8 or 8.1. What this means is now same applications can be run on a traditional Windows PC like a laptop or a desktop, and the same code can be installed on a mobile device like Windows Phone or a tablet, and there is no compromise of the feature in any of these. So these applications are called universal applications, and you'll find a lot of support for these applications in the newer versions of the Config Manager. There is now on-premise mobile device management, so MDM solution does not always have to be online now. Also, the software center has a pretty modern look, so it's kind of a software catalog now, where you can see the apps which are available and then request for it. So really lots of changes, interesting times for an IT administrators, and we are going to see, we are going to go through a journey to evaluate all these changes, all these new features. But before we do that, let's say you are an IT administrator, and well, you are tasked to design an architecture. So there are some things to note. Let's talk about the hierarchy. Well, nothing really has changed really in 2016 compared to 2012. It is still pretty much the same solid hierarchy, and so if this is your CAS called Central Administration Site, it can have multiple child primary site. It can have multiple primary sites reporting to it. Now you would need a CAS only in the case you have multiple primary sites in your infrastructure, and we will see the scenarios when you might need additional primary sites. However, one primary site now has lots of capability of handling clients. So a primary site reports to central administration sites, and primary sites can have secondary sites. Yeah, so these are all secondary sites, and that's it really. So there is no child secondary site. There is no site reporting back to a secondary server. Everything reports to a primary, right? And primary reports to the central administration site. Now there could be server roles which are attached to primary. There could be or should I say, they are called as site system roles. So if primary and secondary are called site servers, there is something called as site system and site system roles, like management point, a very important role, distribution point, fallback status point, FSP, enrollment point, state migration point, and you can install these all these site system roles either on primary server or a secondary server, or you can have another server attached to either primary or secondary where you can install these roles. So this server is known as site system. All right, I know it's kind of a little confusing to begin with, but trust me, it's not very complicated. So now let's quickly look into how the numbers stack up, right? So a central administration site can support up to 25 child primary sites. 25, that's a huge number. And in this case, the primary site can support up to 250 secondary sites and up to 15 management points. Like I said, a secondary site does not support a child site, so there is no there is no child secondary site or something. The distribution point, distribution points play a very key role. Often distribution points are so important and so powerful that it makes the job of a secondary site redundant. So each primary and secondary site can support up to 250 distribution points. Yeah, so this infrastructure is really scaled up. Each distribution point supports connections up to 4,000 clients, right? So one primary, 250 distribution point, each distribution point 4,000 clients, right? And 10,000 packages and applications in total. So that's a huge number. And talking about huge number, let's look at the hierarchy with a central administration site. It supports 700,000 desktops, the computer that runs on Windows and Linux, 25,000 devices that run Mac and Windows CE, so like mobile devices, and then one of the following either 100,000 devices that you manage using your on-premise MDM, or 300,000 cloud-based devices. And now this is very interesting. A standalone primary site can support up to 175,000 total clients, which should not exceed 150,000 desktops. So this is a very important point to note, that one primary site is in itself, it's able to support up to 150,000 devices. And how many organizations would have would require more than that, right? So 150,000 devices, it's quite a lot. So unless you need more than 150,000 devices to support one standalone primary site is sufficient. And secondary site in itself can support up to 15,000 desktops. Altogether, this is what you need to bear in mind when you are planning to design, to architect a config manager solution. So with this basic introduction, I hope you're now able to understand how a config manager works, what are the features it has, what are the improvements it has, how the architecture looks like. And therefore, in the going video, I believe it's a good time to start looking into how it is implemented. I have listed down few steps which I thought is like step-by-step procedure, and I've already installed a domain controller, and I've already set up an SCCM server. The next step is to install the prerequisites, and I'll show you in the following videos how to install the prerequisites, like the server role, extend the schema, how to install SQL Server, how to install WSUS, and then we'll go about following all those steps. I have a very basic lab. My lab has one domain controller, which is built on a virtual box, Oracle virtual box, and it has a server, and both these servers are actually built with Microsoft Windows 2016. So I'm trying to use the latest server operating system currently available, and I've already installed the ADDS and DNS role. So let's quickly look into our servers. Here is my DC. I have already promoted it as a domain controller, and this is the name of my domain, VJXL. Let me quickly log in. And let me quickly log in to SCCM server as well. So this right here is my domain controller. It's running on Windows Server 2016 platform, data center evaluation, and the domain name is vjxl.local. I've given it static IP because this is a domain controller, and Because this is a lab environment, I have switched the firewall off. Similarly, I have my SCCM server running on Windows Server 2016 Data Center Evaluation Edition, and this is getting a DHCP provided IP address, and let's look at what that address is. It's getting 10.10.10.2, and that's getting through DHCP. On my domain controller, I have AD, DNS and DHCP installed, as you can see, and pretty much that's it. So I'm running this lab on Oracle VirtualBox, which, as you know, or as I've discussed in previous videos, it's a freeware basically. The network that I have selected is a host-only network. So the network adapter, it's a host-only network, so it's really an isolated network. So if you see here, you know, all of this is within the network. It's not connected to internet, because host-only network by default does not provide connection with the internet. However, I can do something called as network sharing with my host PC, which will enable internet connection in these machines. And why I need is as we go about installation of SCCM, we will see that there is a point when we are trying to install ADK. That is when it reaches out to internet to fetch the recent files. And also when we are actually trying to install the SCCM, there's a point where it does the prerequisite checks, and that's where internet connection is required. We will see about that, but right now that's pretty much how my lab is stacked. This is my DC, and this is my SCCM. Yeah, you must be hearing the mouse clicks because I'm just using a mouse here. This right now is a machine which does not exist, but I plan to include it into my lab for demonstrating the Windows 10 client management using SCCM. So thanks friends, thank you very much for watching this video. The purpose of this video was to provide a brief background. Although I know SCCM is such a huge topic, it cannot be covered in a small half-an-hour video. However, I still hope you got something to learn about. If you have any suggestions, feel free to post your comments in the comment section. And in the upcoming video, as I mentioned, I will take you through the step-by-step procedure to install and configure SCCM. Hopefully it will be a helpful series for you, and it will help me understand SCCM as much as it will help you. So let's enjoy the ride. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon. Bye bye.